big taxonomy quiz?
Wait, what?
All right, so one quiz on this. So we are now moving our way. All right, guys, listen, please. We are moving our way through the different phyla, and roughly we're going in order of complexity. Sponges being the simplest animals, and we're sort of working our way up into more and more complex organisms. So it leaves us with the worms, and really, worms is not one phylum. It's actually, there's three main phyla of worms. I'll just mention them to you. You don't really need to know them, but they are roundworms, which are called nematodes, nematoda. There are flatworms, called platyhelminthes is the name of their phylum. And there are segmented worms. Their name is Annelida. But we're going to kind of lump them together here. So all of the worms have bilateral symmetry. Okay? Most are free-living, but there are a bunch of parasitic species of all three types of worms. And what does that mean if something is a parasite? Holly?
It needs a host to live.
Yeah, that they live on or in a host, and we have to add something more to our definition. Not only do they live in or on, because we have lots of bacteria that live in our digestive tract, but they're not parasites. They live in us. So what do we have to add to our definition, Walker? You're getting there. Sean?
They get super nutrients.
Sometimes, but some don't. But you're all very close. Sometimes, but not always. They're harmful. So parasites are organisms that live in or on another organism and are harmful in some way. They often feed off another organism. Sometimes they don't. They just use an organism as a sort of temporary resting spot. So some of these will be familiar. Okay? Things like that. What is it? Let's be specific. An earthworm. That is a leech. So both the leech and the earthworm are in the annelid group. They are segmented worms. And if you imagine an earthworm, its body is split into those little sections. Okay? That's why it's called a segmented worm. Same with this leech. Bodies split into segments. Earthworms are extremely beneficial to the soil ecosystem. You can actually go online and order a bag of earthworms to come to your house, like on Amazon, and they'll like show up. People put them in their garden because what they do is they burrow through the soil, they ingest organic matter like dead leaves and things, and then they fertilize the soil and aerate it so that oxygen can get in. And the earthworm excrement is actually a type of fertilizer for the soil. You probably have seen earthworm excrement, and maybe you didn't know it. You probably saw it on the ground where there's like a muddy area, and you might have picked it up thinking it was just a little ball of soil, and you squished it between your fingers. You threw it at your little brother. You know these things I'm talking about, these little clusters of what you thought were soil?
Oh, yeah.
It's actually earthworm poop. That's what that really is.
Pick up soil.
Yeah, I'm sure you've all seen them before. When you're a little kid, you pick them up and you squish them because they just like kind of crumble.
Wait, that's.
Yeah, yeah. That's what it is. A leech is another type of, like I said, segmented worm. They attach to another organism, and they basically bite a hole in it. They then fill up with blood from that organism, and then they fall off and they go digest that blood. They have in their saliva chemicals that sort of numb the area. They also have chemicals that are anticoagulants, so that when they bite the organism, its blood doesn't clot. It continues bleeding while they're attached, so that blood will enter them. And so they're commonly found in water, fresh water sometimes. I never see the movie Stand By Me. It's an old movie. No? It's based on a Stephen King book. Well, anyway, there's a leech scene in Stand By Me. So if you ever see that movie, you'll know what you're seeing. This is a planaria. It's one of the flatworms, Platyhelminthes. It's got these two little eyes. It's feeding tube. It's a pharynx. And they're small little worms, live in fresh water. One interesting thing about the planaria is they have an ability to regenerate. Sometimes we would order them and look at them in class, and then you can cut them in half with a razor blade, like this. And then when you do that, each half will grow back the opposite part, and they can regenerate into two planaria. You can cut them horizontally, and each half, after a week or 2 weeks, will grow the opposite half back. They can regenerate. You can actually, if you cut it just halfway down the middle, each half of the head will grow another head, and you could end up with a two-headed planaria.
Oh my god.
Yes, Abby?
How many pieces can you cut it into where it'll still be?
Yeah, they have to be a relatively large piece, probably 2, maybe 3 at most. Another type of flatworm is this.
That's a hard heart.
So what is this?
I don't know. It's a heart.
Looks like something filled up with spaghetti, but it's not.
It's a heart.
It is a heart. It's a heart of a dog. Does anybody know any parasites of dogs?
Oh, wait, it's a
Ringworm?
No.
No, can I get that?
No, it's just the.
You might give your dog every few months
Oh my god, what's it
a little
called?
brown medicine-like treat. It's heartworm.
Oh.
You ever heard of heartworm medication?
It's a heart.
Heartworm is a parasite that can get into your dog or some other animals, and it works its way into the circulatory system and goes into their heart. It lives off of the blood of the animal, and as it grows, it reproduces. It becomes so numerous that it can actually clog up their entire heart, so it doesn't function anymore. It can be fatal to a dog. So this is a heart from a dog that died from this heartworm, heartworm parasite. There's lots of parasitic flatworms. There are tapeworms, which can infect many animals, including humans. Tapeworms often live in the digestive tract of an animal, and once they ingest them, they sort of clamp on into the intestine, and then as that organism eats food, as it's moving through the digestive tract, the worm absorbs the nutrients from that food, and it grows larger and larger, it reproduces, and it can eventually harm the animal. Humans can get tapeworm. So I have two worm stories I'll tell you. Both involve my dogs. So the dog we had before we have our 2 current dogs. This is when I first got a dog, and we were at our house. I was taking her in the backyard to go to the bathroom. And as she went to the bathroom, I looked at the little present she had left. And on top of it is a tiny little white thing. It looked kind of like a grain of rice, but it was moving. It's kind of squeezing together and moving around on her little pile of poop. So I knew then she had intestinal worm. So what happens is these worms, as they're in their digestive tract, every once in a while, a segment of it will break off, and it comes out when the dog goes to the bathroom. And if you have a dog, you may know other dogs like to go around and smell where other dogs have gone to the bathroom. So if in my backyard I didn't notice, and my dog went to the bathroom, then the neighbor's dog came over, smelled around there. Sometimes dogs eat each other's excrement. Then that dog would have ingested that section of the tapeworm, and then that dog would be infected. And that's how many of these things spread. So basically, I just took a little sample to the vet. They gave us a 1-pill medicine, gave it to my dog, kills the worms, she's fine. So the other story about worms is when eventually that dog passed away, we got a new dog, and we got her very young. So normally when you adopt a new dog, it's like about 8 weeks or so. After they've been with their mother, they've been vaccinated typically, and taken care of, then you could get them after about 8 weeks. And so one of the things usually they do at a breeder is they deworm the dog or cat. Have you ever heard of that? So our dog, when it came to us, was not dewormed. So we had to do it. So same sort of thing. We got because we got her early, we had to do the deworming. So basically they just give you a pill, you feed it to your puppy, because basically 100% of dogs get tapeworms in their first few weeks of life. So they have to get this medication. And so we gave it to my dog, and she's small. Even today, she's only about this big. Molly's about that big. And so when she's a puppy, she's really small. She's about this big. And so we gave her the deworming medicine, and then I didn't really think, I never did this before. So, a day later, we'd take her out, and when she went to the bathroom, basically looked like a plate of fettuccine. There were worms longer than her coming out when she went to the bathroom, because those intestinal worms are really long. This medicine killed them, and then when she went to the bathroom, they're all coming out. So it's kind of gross. So if you ever get a puppy, make sure it's dewormed before you get it.
Spaghetti.
Well, it's like fettuccine. All right, so this is a flatworm that's not a parasite. It's called a fluke. Okay, they live in the oceans. They're really colorful. They sort of swim around by waving the edges of their body. They're really neat. There are some parasitic flukes as well. There's a liver fluke that affects people's liver. There's roundworms that live in pork and pigs that can get into humans as well, and they burrow their way to a person's brain and lay eggs. They can kill them. So there's lots of worms, lots of kind of different types. So examples: earthworm, leech, planaria, flatworm, all the things we just talked about. So this is a guinea worm. So guinea worms are a parasitic worm, most commonly found in Africa, and they spread from person to person via contaminated drinking water. So there's a flea that carries this parasite in it. And if a person ingests the flea, then they ingest the parasite, and then the parasite can infect them. It burrows to the skin and forms a little kind of bubble on the skin, and then they have to be removed. And so the way they remove them is they wind them around a little stick or a little piece of gauze, a little at a time, and slowly work the worm out of the person's skin. You can't just pull it out. If it breaks off, then it can cause an infection inside of the skin. So they gotta slowly remove it from the person. That's what this video is. And really, guinea worm used to be quite common. It's almost completely gone because we know how to control it now. So it spreads from person to person. As this worm made its way out of a person's skin lesion, it could get into drinking water. Then it infects fleas. When other people ingest those fleas, they might get the worm. And so basically, if you have clean drinking water, you can eliminate this worm from affecting people. You can actually see the fleas in a glass of water. So people now have been educated to know not to drink contaminated water. And also, if you keep people that have the guinea worm away from the water supply, then that worm can't reinfect the water, and therefore you can stop the cycle of this worm being passed on. So you guys want to see this video?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it gonna be like that Cheeto video? With all the weird thingies?
Cheeto video.
Oh, that